previous episode, we analyzed the deepening societal fractures, particularly how immigration policies have exacerbated cultural divides and economic pressures, fueling voter dissatisfaction. The far-right party AfD has capitalized on this discontent, rising rapidly to challenge Germany's traditional political parties. These fractures have not only made Germany's political landscape more divided, but have also cast uncertainty over the future of Europe as a whole. This episode will delve further into the outcomes of the potential snap elections and their implications, exploring the trajectory of Germany's political future and its profound impact on European and global affairs. Welcome to Black Bloc Hongkongers, your go-to channel for in-depth discussions on international politics and global crises. Stay tuned as we uncover the truths behind the headlines. Like, share, and subscribe to join our community of critical thinkers.
Bundesminister Lindner wird vom Bundespräsidenten entlassen.
German politics currently faces serious internal divisions, especially within the three-party coalition, government led by Chancellor Olaf Scholz. This government, consisting of the SPD, the Greens, and the FDP, has struggled due to key policy disagreements, particularly on issues such as energy transition, economic stimulus, and foreign policy. The Greens emphasize environmental protection and social justice, while the FDP focuses on fiscal discipline and market freedom, creating a widening rift that has made policy coordination difficult and led to inefficient governance, with declining public support. Moreover, failures in economic management have exacerbated the government's instability. High inflation, the energy crisis, and economic recession have increased voter dissatisfaction, with the public widely believing that the current government has failed to effectively address the crisis, causing a sharp drop in the ruling coalition's approval ratings. This has deepened the political trust crisis, as more and more voters feel the government no longer represents their interests, especially on key issues like immigration, energy policy, and economic recovery. Furthermore, the ongoing social movements and protests have further intensified the government's predicament. External challenges also threaten the government's stability, especially with increasing internal pressures within the EU and growing international uncertainty. On December 16, 2023, the German Bundestag conducted a vote of confidence for Chancellor Scholz, which ended with 394 votes of no confidence, 207 votes of confidence, and 116 abstentions. Following the failed vote of confidence, Scholz and his three-party government announced its dissolution, paving the way for the upcoming early election. According to the German constitution, the president will dissolve the Bundestag and call for an early election, scheduled for February 23, 2024. Without rising public support, it could potentially become the second largest party in the election, challenging the positions of the CDU and SPD, and disrupting Germany's political landscape. As AfD rises, political issues in Germany may increasingly focus on anti-immigration, anti-EU, and nationalist topics. This shift will force the CDU to re-evaluate its policy stance and potentially make compromises on certain issues, possibly even facing pressure to cooperate with AfD. Meanwhile, the SPD could further decline in the face of economic difficulties and policy failures, with support continuing to drop. If AfD gains more seats, other parties may be forced to consider cooperation with it or form an anti-AfD alliance, which would further deepen political divisions and make governance even more challenging. The election will expose and magnify Germany's internal political splits, particularly on sensitive issues such as immigration policy and cultural identity, which will negatively affect policy coherence and social stability. If Germany's political instability continues, it will not only affect its domestic political structure, but also pose challenges to the EU's cohesion and decision-making efficiency. As a key core country in the EU, the weakening of Germany's leadership role will subject the EU to more internal challenges, particularly in areas such as common foreign policy, defense, and climate policy. Additionally, Germany's political instability may indirectly impact its policies toward Russia and Ukraine, weakening the EU's unified stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The rise of right-wing politics may change Germany's relationship with the United States and affect internal NATO cooperation. Meanwhile, Germany's economic cooperation with China could also be impacted, especially if the new government adopts more nationalist or protectionist policies, which would create new challenges for Sino-German relations. However, this may also prompt both sides to reassess the possibilities for strategic cooperation. With the confirmation of the early election, Germany's political landscape will undergo profound changes, which will affect the global order, especially on major issues such as immigration, energy policy, and foreign relations. These changes will undoubtedly have far-reaching impacts on future international order and global cooperation. Germany, once regarded as a pillar of stability in Europe, is now facing internal fractures that are attracting external attention. As right-wing forces rise and multiculturalism faces challenges, every change in Germany could transcend borders, having a profound impact on EU unity, the US-China competition, and the future of the international order. As the economic engine and policymaker of the European Union (EU), Germany's instability will weaken cohesion within the EU, especially on key issues such as immigration, economic aid, and energy policy. It may become difficult for EU countries to reach consensus. The success of right-wing forces like the AfD may inspire extreme right-wing movements in countries like France and Italy to challenge the EU's values and policy foundations, further intensifying internal EU instability. Germany's economic recession or political turmoil will directly affect the euro, exchange rate, and the EU financial market, increasing economic pressure on other member states. Internal pressures could lead Germany to reduce its economic support for southern European countries, exacerbating economic divergences and north-south tensions within the Eurozone, further destabilizing the region's economy. The rise of right-wing forces might lead Germany to adopt a more moderate stance on sanctions against Russia, even reconsidering the restoration of energy cooperation. This would weaken the EU's overall response capability, especially concerning the consistency of its policies toward Russia. If Germany adopts a softer position toward Russia, it could create conflicts with hardline countries like Poland and the Baltic states, further weakening NATO's unity and operational capabilities. The uncertainty surrounding Germany's military policy also hamper the EU's autonomous defense development, making the EU more dependent on US support when dealing with regional threats. Germany's instability could weaken transatlantic coordination and cooperation, particularly on issues like Russia, China, and international trade. The US will face a heavier burden in dealing with European affairs, potentially affecting its strategic resource allocation in the Indo-Pacific region. The rise of Germany's right-wing forces could serve as an example for similar movements in other countries, further eroding the international order based on liberal democracy. This may also push right-wing forces in the US to use economic difficulties and immigration issues to solidify their support, profoundly affecting US internal politics and global influence. Political instability in Germany exacerbates uncertainties in its China policy. Under pressure from the US, Germany could adopt a tougher stance on China, especially regarding technology, export controls, and scrutiny of key industry cooperation. This would pose challenges to Sino-German economic and trade relations, especially amidst changes and adjustments in global supply chains. In the field of new energy technologies, China and Germany are both partners and competitors. If right-wing forces dominate policy, it could weaken cooperation between the two nations in green energy, particularly in climate policy and environmental technology innovation. This could negatively impact the global green transformation process. The success of Germany's right-wing forces could inspire similar movements in countries like India and Brazil, challenging the foundation of global multilateralism and international cooperation. This would not only change domestic political landscapes, but could also have profound negative effects on the global economy, trade, and diplomatic policies. As a symbol of mature democracy, Germany's internal divisions and political turmoil serve as a reminder to the world that even traditionally stable democracies can find themselves in crisis under internal and external pressures. This may prompt the international community to reassess existing democratic governance models and explore new mechanisms to address current crises and challenges. Germany's political changes will undoubtedly have a far-reaching and multifaceted impact on the global order. As Germany experiences internal divisions, the political, economic, and diplomatic landscapes around the world will face unprecedented challenges. In the future, whether Germany can overcome internal challenges and restore its leadership on the international stage will be a focal point for global leaders. The dome of the German Bundestag glimmers faintly with golden hues in the morning light. Yet, this symbol of German democracy is now overshadowed by the silent surge of far-right currents. The voices of far-right parties grow louder, their agendas like pebbles stirring ripples across the lake of Germany, challenging the very foundations of EU stability. In this political storm, Germany might choose to shut its doors, reject immigration, distance itself from multilateral cooperation, and even question the values of the EU and NATO. Such choices would render Europe's borders colder and the waves of the Mediterranean more turbulent. The despair of refugees with nowhere to turn and the internal divisions within Europe could ignite new conflicts, creating a vicious cycle. This is not an isolated story, but a microcosm of the global far-right wave. When the political winds shift in Berlin, the whole world feels the chill. The road ahead is yet uncharted, but every step may determine the course of peace in Europe and beyond. Thank you for watching Black Bloc Hong Kong's Global Insight Network. Like, share, and subscribe for in-depth analyses on international politics and critical issues. Explore these videos next and join the conversation for a more insightful world.